Let's talk about the Roadster.
Welcome to another episode of Bert's Bike. Today, we talk about my Harley Davidson Roadster, what I love and hate about it, as well as a few things that went wrong right after I got it. First off, I want to say thank you for watching. We're at 500 subscribers and growing. So thank you so much for your support. It really helps me keep going with the channel and making content that I love. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out on the channel. Alright, let's get into it. So why Harley Davidson? Well, I've actually test driven quite a few Harley Davidsons already, but none have really spoke to me the way the Roadster has. For those of you keeping up with the channel, you'll know that my previous motorcycle was a Kawasaki W800 Cafe. So I'm really used to that kind of vibe and ergonomic. And I really wanted something that would blend both worlds. The robustness, the attitude of a Harley Davidson with the sleek and cool nature of a cafe UJM type bike. And in my opinion, the Roadster really hits the nail on the head. So I wasn't even aware that the Roadster existed. Although it shares the same engine, it's a very different motorcycle than all the other Sportster models. You can go look up the specs if you like, but overall it has a different frame, it has the cafe stance and feel, with good suspension out of the box. It has inverted front forks and adjustable preload on the rear. I believe Harley was trying to make a motorcycle that you could not only cruise with, but something you could actually throw around and have some fun with as well. So the first thing that really drew me into this motorcycle is the overall styling of the bike. Almost every time I take it out, somebody is asking me or giving me a compliment on this motorcycle. I love everything about the looks. The handlebars, the tank, the stock seat, the gauge cluster, the look of the inverted forks, the beefy look of the rear shocks, the seemingly big tires, chopped fender, and the retro headlight bucket. In my opinion, it's definitely a classic Harley look, but with a modern cafe twist. So A+ Harley for the looks. Another thing I love about the bike is the paint scheme. Yes, it's a black bike, but it has two silver pinstripes that come down the tank and the back fender. It's subtle, but it's a nice touch. So as you can see, it's a very awesome looking bike. And in my opinion, the sound matches the look. When I bought the bike, it had Vance & Hines pipes already, and I think they work really, really well with this bike. So well, in fact, I think it looks stock this way. So what's it like to sit on this bike? I'm 6'1" with about a 32-inch inseam. It's not a very tall bike, but it's definitely tall for a Harley Davidson. So if you ride like I do on the balls of your feet, your upper leg is almost parallel to the ground, and your lower leg is tucked behind you slightly. But if you hover the brake pedal, they're pretty much straight down. There's enough room on the seat to scoot back and lean forward to get in a tucked position. And conveniently, you can scoot your feet back by using the passenger pegs as rear sets. Standing up feels pretty natural on this bike, despite the low handlebar, and also lifting off the seat to absorb bumps is a non-issue. The tank does sit a little high and it's a little narrow, so gripping it with your legs is kind of awkward, but at the same time, I don't really feel the need to do so. The seat does have a nice rise. It keeps you locked in and prevents you from sliding backwards. Out on the road, the bike feels very planted and sure of itself. It seems to do pretty much everything with absolute ease. The suspension is probably some of the best I've had on any stock bike. It is a little bit on the stiff side, but it does feel smooth on normal riding conditions. Tipping the bike in does take a little bit more effort than some bikes that I've ridden, so once you do tip in, it does lock into the corner very well. Although backroad riding is amazing on this bike, it has no problem doing the interstate. When I first got the bike, I loaded it down with all my camping gear and equipment and took a 700-mile round trip from Nashville to Chattanooga, Tennessee, Tail of the Dragon, and Cherahala Skyway. I did mostly back roads on the way down, but on the way home, I took the interstate all the way from Chattanooga, Tennessee to Nashville, Tennessee. With all my gear on the bike, I had no problem being ahead of the traffic and also passing when I needed to. So this is probably a good time to talk about the bike's power. There's a lot of torque on tap to get you moving and a decent amount of horsepower. So I'd say the bike is quick, but not necessarily fast. And I think the main reason for this is Harley likes to tune their bikes with a lot of torque versus a lot of top-end horsepower. Don't get me wrong, you can still do the ton-up and the bike will do it if you want it to, but personally for street riding, I try to ride a little more conservatively. Keeping up with the flow of traffic, maybe slightly ahead, knowing I have a lot left over for passing and getting out of the way. To my surprise, wind wasn't really an issue, especially because you're leaned forward and cutting through the wind. For a bike with no fairing, it is very comfortable at speed. And thanks to the extra weight of this bike, it keeps you very planted at those higher speeds. On the flip side, slow speed is an absolute breeze on this bike. If you're used to riding lighter bikes, this is where you may feel the weight of the motorcycle, and since it is slow to turn in, you need to be very deliberate when you are making a turn. Once you're used to it though, everything just feels very easy and controlled. Also, the motorcycle handles really slow speed very well. When I'm doing this, I do utilize the back brake and ride that friction zone, especially when I'm making a turn. So friction zone and riding that back brake. Grinding through traffic isn't that big of a deal, but the clutch pull is on the heavier side. There were times during my trip where my hands are literally aching from sitting in traffic. I don't really like to pop the bike in neutral when I'm sitting at a traffic light because I want to be ready to move if I need to. Compared to most bikes I've ridden, neutral is actually really hard to find at times. Sometimes it goes in very easy, but a lot of times you feel some resistance and then you give it just enough and then it goes into neutral. But if you give it a little too much, it goes right into second. So personally, I do fumble around with that, but I've found the workaround is if you are fumbling around and just can't get into neutral, if you rock the bike forward or backward just a little bit, it tends to go in a lot easier. The stock mirrors are really great. They look awesome, they're made out of metal, the optics are nice, crisp, and clear. However, they don't stick out far enough, and also there's not a whole lot of room between your mirror and your hand. So let's talk a little bit about utility. I do use my bike for everyday commuting, riding to work and back, and anywhere I'm really going by myself. So being able to get things on the bike is a big deal for me. Unfortunately, the bike accepts throw-over luggage pretty well. However, if you're going to keep the bike stock, you're going to have to get creative on how you mount things. As far as features and extras, this bike really doesn't have it. And don't get me wrong, I love bare bones bikes, but there are a couple things I think Harley could have done from the factory to make this a more user-friendly everyday bike. First off, I would have loved to see some kind of dedicated helmet lock on the bike. Harley wants to sell you a carabiner with rubber coating and a padlock on it and calling that a helmet lock. That was a feature I used a ton on my W800. The second, I would have loved to see some dedicated grab handles or tie-down points on the bike. This bike has 0. So to get my tie-down straps on there, I ended up using the area where the fender meets the subframe. It's not designed for that, but it works really well. So I'm going to move on to what I think is the bike's weakest point. And that would be the stock headlight is terrible. It's so terrible, in fact, it's the worst headlight I have ever had on a motorcycle. So much so that I actually bought a replacement. I've never felt the need to actually change that out on any other bike I've owned. It's not only dismal, but when you turn into a corner at night, you can't see part of the road. And when you flip to your high beam, the center focus is lost. So even though there's no oncoming traffic, I find myself fiddling with the high and low beams to get the best fit for the situation. For a bike costing $11,000–$12,000 brand new, they could have shipped it with decent lighting. As far as economy goes, I was very surprised to find out that I was getting between 50 and 55 miles per gallon on 91 octane. I don't baby the bike, but I don't drive like a crazy person either, so your mileage may vary depending on your riding style. The bike holds about 3 gallons of gas, and I find that the gas light comes on at about 100 miles, and usually there's about a gallon or so left in the gas tank. So if you made it this far, you're probably wondering what went wrong with my bike after I got it back from the dealership. And it was only by chance that I caught this problem. I'd done the entire road trip, and when I got the bike back to hose it off and wash it and put it away, I noticed this. Yes, that is my swing arm rubbing against the frame. So I purchased this bike used from the dealership. And upon the negotiation, I was very adamant to find out whether they would take care of their customers if something were to happen or if they missed something, in a reasonable amount of time, of course. Long story short, they didn't even put up a fight. They just told me to bring the bike in and they would take care of it. So, upon diagnosing the bike, what did they find? Well, the swing arm is welded in 2 particular spots that are very close to the frame. And on my bike, the weld joint was not deburred. So they ended up tearing the back end out, grinding down the weld joint, and replacing my bearings and spacers. And after talking to some Roadster owners and seeing some other Sportsters on the dealership floor, I noticed a bunch of swing arm weld joints were not deburred and clearance varied widely. So what am I saying here? I guess what I'm saying is if you're buying a new or used motorcycle, you should definitely check out where the swing arm meets the body and make sure that there's no rubbing or weirdness at all in that area. The other thing that happened was once I got the bike back, everything seemed fine. I have a little bit of clearance now on that swing arm and it seems to be fine. So I've done about 300 miles after the repair and everything seems pretty solid. The other thing that happened was the left fork on my bike was not torqued correctly on the top clamp and the triple tree. This was causing the fork to slip slightly. Again, the dealership said, hey, bring it in, we'll take care of it. So they ended up realigning the front forks on the top clamp and torquing everything to spec. So obviously there were a couple of balls dropped here. One was from the factory. They should have made sure that the weld joints had clearance and that everything was torqued to spec from the factory. The second ball that was dropped was definitely from the dealership, because they do charge what they call a rehab fee when you buy a used bike from them. They're supposed to do an inspection on the bike and also change all the necessary fluids. With all that said though, they're not going to catch everything and things are going to slip through the cracks every now and then, but what really sets a dealership apart is if they can stand by their product and their customer after the fact, and that is really important to me. So hey, I'll probably end up buying another bike from them in the future. Well, my unfortunate circumstances aside, the Roadster is a slammin' motorcycle, and out of all the motorcycles that I've ridden, it's my favorite one, and I cannot get enough of riding this bike. Even with the quality control issues, I'm still loving it. If you're looking for a Harley Davidson and don't want just a typical cruiser, this is a bike you should definitely check out. Yeah, mine's rough around the edges, but it's got vibe, attitude, and it'll get you there in style. I got plans for the Roadster, so stay tuned to my channel and come along for the ride. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Please feel free to leave a comment below, and if you're in the Nashville area, drop me a message, maybe we'll go on a ride. If there's some gear in the video that you see that you might like to check out or buy, I have some affiliate links below to some of the gear that I use. Alright, thanks for watching. This is Bert's Bike, and I'll catch you on the next one.